Its regular Township Board meeting of Tuesday, November 22nd, 2022. With that meeting being called to order, I would like us to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, roll call.
Supervisor Kowal.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Trustee Powell.
Here.
Trustee Voorhees.
Present.
Trustee Smith.
Here.
Clerk Noble here.
Very good. Make an amendment to the agenda. We're going to change 9C from Resolution 22036 to Resolution 22041. Just a typographical error. We remedy that.
Mr. Supervisor, I move the agenda, to approve the agenda as amended.
I have a motion to approve as amended. Looking for support?
Support.
I have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item, consent agenda, revenue expenses, check disbursement, list of bills, various department reports, and update on a variety of different leases and of our equipment for the township, and certificate of levies of tax bills for year 2022. Any questions or comments from the board on consent agenda?
Motion to approve consent agenda.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support?
Support.
I have a motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. Item 7A, approval of the minutes of regular board meeting on October 18, 2022. Any questions or comments on the minutes?
Mr. Supervisor,
Mr.
I've
Powell.
already apologized to Deputy Clerk, but I've got 5 items that I really believe the board might want to modify on the minutes. The first one is on page 4. It's the 5th paragraph down where Jim Galbraith is talking. It's the middle bullet item there where it says increased lot frontages. That can actually be taken a couple different ways. And maybe Sean can help us out on this one. If it's talking about the single-family residential development, the lot frontages should be increased lot frontage widths, and not just lot frontages. If it's the multiple development, it should be increased lot frontage setbacks, because he did both of those. And I'm not sure here. It probably means lot widths, because we're talking about the units.
Probably lot width rather than lot frontage width, but however, right.
Yeah. So increased lot widths probably would be the correct way to modify that.
We'll strike frontages and add widths.
And then on page 5, the very next page, in the very first paragraph, I believe that the last 2 lines, he's talking about setbacks and providing a 100-foot setback from Hill Road, not a 100% setback, and a 74-foot setback from the right-of-way of 59, not percentages. So I believe that that would be much clearer on those. Then if you drop down to page 10, third paragraph down, middle line, it starts, the nuisances of this parking lot wrapping around the 3 homes. That's me, he questions if there is, it's not laminations, it's illuminations. Laminations would be a whole different subject. And then item 14, this is not quite as critical, but the 5th paragraph down in
Page 14.
page 14, I'm
Page
sorry.
14.
And again, I am responding to Trustee Smith's comments up earlier in the in the minutes. And Trustee Powell, it doesn't read quite right. Trustee Powell regarding Smith's comments to limit free market system. What I was doing was disagreeing with Smith's comments to limit the free market system. Ms. Smith was saying it might be nice to just limit how many car washes and how many uses we can have in the township. And I believe it would be best served if Trustee Powell disagreed with Trustee Smith's comments instead of regarding.
Well, how dare you?
That'd be terrible. But with that, Mr. Supervisor, that's the only ones that I could find.
Okay, any other questions or comments from the board? Mr. Powell, how about a motion?
Mr. Supervisor, I move to approve the minutes of October 18th as amended.
I have a motion to approve. Looking for support?
Support.
A motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Next item, 8A, public hearing. This public hearing is a requirement for our CBDG funds. As a HUD entitlement county, Oakland County receives funds on a formula basis to meet the national objectives of 4 federal grants, one of which is the Community Development Block Grant, or the CDBG, as we've referred to it here, which we are going to hear public input for the fiscal year 2023 application tonight. The overall goal of the CDBG funds is to strengthen neighborhoods by supporting local revitalization projects, home improvement, and public services for seniors, low-income persons and families, disadvantaged youth, and disabled residents. The deadline for White Lake Township to submit this application to Oakland County for 2023 CDBG funding is December 23rd of this year. The township recommendation will be for the following programs to be included in its application: minor home repairs, senior services, which includes Meals on Wheels, domestic violence, which we work with Haven Incorporated, and youth services, which we work with Huron Valley Youth Services. So I would, at this time, like to make a motion to open the public hearing on our 2023 CDBG grant funding application. Looking for support.
Support.
I have motion and support. Roll call vote, please.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
We are now in public hearing for the CBDG. At this time, I would request that all officials, township officials on the board refrain from any comment, as it is time for the public to comment. And after that, there can be discussion if necessary. At this time, if there's anyone that would like to make comment on our CBDG application for White Lake Township to Oakland County for the fiscal year 2023, please identify yourself and state your business. Come forward to the podium, please.
Mr. Supervisor, I just wanted to make you aware that you breezed right by item number 5.
All public comment.
That was my fault, Mr. Supervisor, because I made a motion too soon.
Yes, you did. That's all right. We'll get back to that. Not to worry. We will address that. As long as it's within the meeting, we're okay. Okay? So, any comment on the subject matter at hand, the CBDG grant? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public comment. Looking for support?
Support.
I have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Any comments or questions from the board?
Do we have any representative here from Haven? Okay. I had a question for them, but they're not here.
Not that I know of. Okay. Of course, these amounts on our application are amounts that are what we ask for. We may get a little less, we may get a little bit more. It all depends on how things go at Oakland County with their funding for this particular program. And the last year, I believe we got a little bit less. Prior years, we got a little bit more. So Trish tries to get the maximum amount that we can, but we are required to have this put in place so that we follow their criteria.
Mr. Supervisor?
Yes,
Before we go into new business, should we maybe open that public
I'm
hearing?
not done yet.
Still
I'm
in-
still
We're still in
working on
public
this.
hearing?
Yeah.
I apologize.
Yeah. Well, we just got out of public hearing, but now we're talking about the resolution. Okay?
Okay.
So the resolution itself will allow us to have approximately $30,164 in minor home repair, $4,309 for domestic violence, $4,309 for senior services, and $4,309 for youth services. So with that being said, approximate amount is $43,091. So that being said, I would make a motion to adopt Resolution 22-035, approving the 2023 Community Development Block Grant application.
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you. We just got going there and we got caught up in speed. Okay. All right, now we're going to revert back to public comment at this time to make up for that. Anyone at this time with public comment, please speak up.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Brian Sinkoff. You need my address, 27593 Biscayne Avenue, White Lake, Michigan, 48383. So I sort of screwed up today too, because now I forgot my notes, and I'm not good at living, but I just wanted to talk about the election 2 weeks ago. I think from my perception, it went very smoothly. I know at my precinct, we had one uncorrectable error, which I didn't like, but I think that happens when you have 3 different ballot styles and new workers that have never worked the polls before. So we had one correctable error, and then we did have a challenger there that was there most of the day and kept their organization pretty well informed on the process. But overall, it went very smooth. What I really wanted to come and talk about was thing that I got involved in after the August primary as correctly Clerk Noble, he stopped funding, using taxpayers' money to fund the election volunteers with food. So I made a commitment that was going to go out and go through the White Lake Township and get donations. So I'm not sure, I think some of you are aware of that, some aren't. But I spent about a month's time doing it, and I started getting pretty worried. And just wanted to tell you a little bit about some of that experience. And of course, a lot of the businesses, they've been affected pretty bad by the inflation lately. So, some of them, I never did get an answer. Some of them told me flat out, they weren't in a position to donate. And as I started to get pretty urgent at the end, I said, sort of hit my mind, why aren't I going to our biggest retailers? So I went to Kroger, Walmart, and Myers. So I'll just tell you quick stories about all those. So at Kroger, I go up to the service desk, the manager comes right out, and he says, oh, you got to go through corporate. So he gives me a corporate phone number to call. I called it 10 times over a week's period and stayed on hold for 30 minutes, so I gave up on that. I then moved down to Walmart. I went there 6 times to the customer service desk. Each time the general manager in the store was in the store. He would not come and see me. 3 instances he asked for my phone number, never returned a call. And then the last place I went was Myers, and I was a little more excited there. The manager came out and saw me, and he said, yeah, I'm pretty confident that we get something done. And I went back a second time, and then he told me that we got to fill out a form for the corporation. So, of course, I took it over to the clerk and got it back on a timely basis. About a week and a half before, I hadn't heard anything, so I went back. General manager comes out and he says, don't worry, you're going to hear something. So the Friday before the election, I went over there and I said, I haven't heard a thing. And he said, well, it's hung up at corporate. I said, well, can't you make a call and see what the disposition of it is? And that was too much effort for him. So, I was pretty disappointed in, probably 3 of the biggest retailers in White Lake Township, treating us that way. But I got to say, and I want to publicly thank the people that did donate. I mean, so these are the businesses that really make, White Lake a great place to live. One is right next door is Graceland, so they contributed. Jet's Pizza contributed. You have to help me now without my notes. Yeah, there was Dickies, they're actually in in Commerce Lake. But that was through not as much donating, it's a person that I got to know that lives in my neighborhood. Then we had
Tiki.
Jimmy John's, and
Right.
and then another one that came in really strong for us was, which I went there at the last second, after, I'm going everywhere and I'm not making much, is the mobile White Lake Subway. So they fed all the dinner for us. So, publicly want to thank them. But I just wanted to bring to the board's attention, it's going to change how I shop, I can tell you. And I put in a lot of effort, and, the biggest retailers that are probably in a position, to donate $100 or something, couldn't get them to do anything. So,
Okay,
thanks.
Brian, appreciate it. Any other comment this time? Seeing none, I'll close public comment. We'll resume our regular schedule. At this point, we will go to new business, 9B, the resolution 2239 to approve a quota Class C liquor license for Black Rock, who is going to be coming to our town. Mr. O'Neill.
I really don't have much to add, other than you have in your packet tonight both a completed application from the owner of BlackRock, who is here tonight with his representative, as well as department reports from several of the township departments. I can certainly speak for myself. We've been working with Mr. Morganroth and his application. He's gotten through both the Planning Commission and Township Board, I guess from a preliminary site plan standpoint, also received a special land use for outdoor seating at the Planning Commission. So his project is currently in good order. His next step is the Zoning Board of Appeals. So if he continues through the process, as I expect he will, we'll certainly have no objection to the issuance of the requested liquor license, subject to receiving final site plan and getting a certificate of occupancy. While our department doesn't generally handle liquor license applications, we obviously deal very directly with the applicants when they come in. And from day one, Mr. Morganroth was pretty clear that he was interested in one of these licenses, and I was pretty clear that from where I sat, his project was the kind of project that we would want to encourage the issuance of one of our quota licenses for. I mean, it's not low-hanging fruit. This is a big investment. This is a brick-and-mortar project. This is a restaurant that I think most residents will be very happy to have coming to town. So from where I sit, certainly I think I was very politically correct in saying that we have no objection to the issuance of this license, but I would go further tonight and say that I'd certainly be supportive of it from an economic development standpoint.
Supervisor Coe, my office conducted the per ordinance fire sign. We did do a background with MSP where the applicants came in, were fingerprinted. And then a letter went to each department, which each department signed off. Till basically what Director O'Neill said, final C of O, spoke with the applicant. He's very excited to come to White Lake. It's his hometown. We're excited to have him. And I think you said it's 18th store?
18 opens 4 weeks from now, we'll be 19.
19. So just want to it takes typically, 4 to 6 months to get liquor license approved. This is a Class C license. And so we're looking forward to it, and I've been working along with his legal counsel that's here tonight, and don't anticipate any problems at the state level. Should
Okay.
go smooth.
Any questions or comment from the board? Mr. Roman.
Just want to thank Mr. Morganroth for bringing Black Rock to White Lake. Thank you.
Just so you know, I graduated late.
Can you come on up
Yeah.
and state your name, please?
The recorder needs to have you there.
I was just going to say, just for the record, I graduated from Lakeland in 1983.
And your name, sir, again?
Lonnie Morganroth.
Thank you. Okay.
And I lived on East Meadow Circle for 12 years. It's off of Audubon. So we're happy to come here. It's like home to us. Kind of like Aiden Hutchinson getting drafted by the Lions. We feel this is our home.
Well, we've had a lot of feedback, and it's all been positive, so.
Thank you.
Yeah.
If you do a donation for next year, look me up.
All right. Any other questions or comments from the board? Okay.
Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Seeing none, and Mr. Morgenroth has stated his desire to have a license. Mr. O'Neill has stated several of the conditions that are of record, and by resolution through the local action of this government branch, will meet the requirements of the Liquor Commission in the state of Michigan, Michigan Department of Licensing and Regulatory Affairs, a Liquor Control Commission specifically. Would you like to read the
Sure.
resolution?
I'd like just to make a resolution to move this along, Resolution 22-039, to approve quota Class C liquor license for Black Rock White Lake Incorporated at 9501 and 9531 Highland Road.
As a motion, looking for support?
Or
A motion, support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next item is 9C. That was the one that we did change on the resolution number. It was the 2023 poverty exemption guidelines. Mr. Heber, you care to give the board and the public a quick synopsis?
Yeah, absolutely. Before you have poverty guidelines for 2023 and moving forward, and I would just like to recognize and thank Jody McClure from our office who's here in the audience. She is the face of the assessing office relevant to most of the applicants that come in and need to use the Board of Review's poverty exemption along with the disabled veterans. So she goes above and beyond. She went above and beyond in her research with this as far as working with the owners. If something is out of line with their application, she tries to contact them to make sure that your Board of Review has the sufficient information to make their determination. So I just wanted to recognize Jody. As you're aware, the Board of Review is the only public body that can adjust property taxes based on the ability or the taxpayer's ability to pay. In the public statute, it's referred to as a poverty tax exemption. They're required to follow the guidelines, your board members need to follow the guidelines that you adopt here at the township board level. Your guidelines are required to have both an income test and an asset test in determining their qualifications for the exemption. White Lake has used an income level that's 25% higher than the federal poverty guidelines, so that's adjusted generally upward annually, and that 25% has been applied for years. In Jody's research, she's found that level is consistent with other communities, 10 to 15 that she reviewed their application or their guidelines within the county. Your current asset test is $10,000. That would exclude the principal residence and a principal vehicle for the applicant. And we found that in our research that's a little bit low, and we've recommended increasing that to a $25,000 level, but that's obviously for your discussion and approval tonight as you see fit. Public Act 253 of 2020 also requires the board review to no longer to do individual calculations. Around the state, boards would have mathematical formulas of how they would calculate what they wanted an individual perhaps to pay in property taxes. The boards are required to grant exemptions in percentages of either 25, 50, or 100% exemptions. So that's a required change that we've added to the guidelines. An informational item relative to an order of magnitude on this. We receive around, over the past several years, around 7 to 10 applications with approximately 6 to 8 of those being approved by your board review on an annual basis. Our recommended changes, I don't think are going to change that more or less one way or another. I see that as holding constant. And then just as a side note, while I'm here, we expect to bring a resolution back reappointing the board members. All 4 of the board members are agreeing to another 2-year term, with your approval at the December meeting. With that, I'll turn it back over to you, Mr. Supervisor.
And some of this came about because we had received a notice.
Yeah,
Dave and I received a notice from the state Yeah.
Yeah, the state did an audit of all the communities in Oakland County, and based on their assessing records and their board review policies and guidelines. We did a housekeeping item here in June of this year to keep our poverty guidelines consistent for the March, July, and December board. These are required changes for moving forward for 2023 and beyond. And again, you can revisit these at any time. It doesn't have to go into perpetuity.
And again, some research was done to find that these are in line with neighboring communities and such, and we all know, I hate to say it, but $10,000 isn't $10,000 anymore. And, someone can own something, they could have a house, a car, and maybe something that they inherited from their parents. Could be a piece of artwork that's something that, their parents left them. And if they're in a pinch, I think we can, within reason, have some exceptions. And I don't think $25,000 is a number that a lot of looking around was done to be recommended to this board and thought it was fair and equitable. But obviously, at this time, any comments from the board?
I have a question certainly, and Dave can maybe help me. Are these hard, fast guidelines? So if someone meets these requirements, our appeal board still obviously has some discretion. Otherwise, there'd be no reason for an appeal board, correct?
That's true, and the discretion really is whether, based on the applicants, their assets, their income levels, the number of people that live in the house, whether they're going to be granted at the 25%, the 50%, or the 100% level.
I see.
So that's the discretion that they would have.
Okay.
So it's either a yes or a no, and then if yes, what is the percentage of reduction?
Oh, thank you. Okay.
And some of the cases can be very compelling. Grandparents that have custody of children, now there's 4 people in the household, and they may only be on a retirement income. And there has been a variety of these mixtures when you speak to other communities. So that authority given to the Board of Appeals, I believe, is in the right place because they're in the right place to ask the right questions.
Right. And Jody's worked with the board for a long time, and she's been obviously I have not, but she's been very positive about the board's, their willingness to really try to dig in and find out the taxpayers that need the use of this exemption and apply it fairly.
Okay. Any further questions from the board? Seeing none, look up, Mr. Roman.
Yeah, I think you kind of answered my question when you answered Mr. Powell's, but I had someone come to my counter today that I told to go see assessing for a poverty exemption.
Yep.
But interestingly, that person had another person there with them today that lives with them that has an income. So how does that all work?
It is based on household income.
Household, so
Yes.
it would include both?
Yes.
Okay, thanks, Dave.
Okay. Looking for a motion, Mr. Roman?
I will make a motion to approve Resolution 22-041, the resolution for the 2023 Poverty Exemption Guidelines.
I have a motion, looking for support. Support from Andrea. A motion and support for the resolution. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, Resolution 2238, confirming a special assessment, reassessment role for the Special Assessment District designated 2020-2025 Residential Refuse Collection Project. Mr. Hebert.
This is
talk trash?
Yeah, you talk. That's what we do in assessing, is talk trash. This is an annual resolution that the board approves where we add generally it's new construction that gets added to the special assessment for the garbage pickup and the recycling pickup within the township, where we would remove demolished properties where there wasn't a new building that was being constructed, and we would add based on the C of Os and new occupants, the new homes. We're adding 76 new homes this year. For new construction. We're removing one based on a demo that we don't believe there's a new home being built on yet. And we found that the 51 properties prior to this year, they weren't on the special assessment roll that should have been on the special assessment roll. our office, working with Mr. Roman's office, did a sort of an audit, for lack of a better term, based on that special assessment. And we sent letters we wanted to let the board know, we sent letters to those taxpayers identifying that we believe that they have been incorrectly omitted from that township-wide special assessment, and, encourage them to call us if they thought we were in error. We talked to some taxpayers that needed some information about it, but we didn't receive any information that what we found was incorrect. So those are being requested to be added to the special assessment as well.
As we grow, the list will grow. Okay.
Right, just a point of order. A normal special assessment requires an intent resolution and then a special assessment resolution and then an approval of a roll resolution.
We're just reestablishing, reaffirming. Because
Reaffirming, but it's the first time that some of these folks have been a part of an SAD. So I'm wondering why it's not required to go through the entire process for people that have not gone through it before.
And Lisa can correct me when I go wrong, but you're allowed by resolution to modify a current special assessment if it's less than 10% of the special assessment, and the number of parcels and the dollar amount would be less than 10% of the special assessment.
Okay,
we are allowed.
thank you.
Is that,
Okay.
I think it's
I
5.
think it's 5%, yeah. I think it is
Is it-
5%. But
You're still
great.
safe.
yeah, it's still safe.
But you were right, otherwise I wasn't
I
going
think
to.
it's, okay.
The percentage amount might be off.
I think it's 5%, and anything more than 5% requires a public hearing, anything less than 5% doesn't. Similar to what we did actually with Pontiac Lake when we did the reassessment.
Yes.
However, we had to do the public hearing for the Pontiac Lake District because it was much larger than 5%.
Right, okay, thank you.
Okay. Looking for a motion?
Motion to approve resolution 22-038, confirming the special reassessment roll for the garbage.
Support.
Motion, we have support, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Aye. For the garbage.
Thank you, Mr. Hebert.
Thank you.
Okay, next item is a proposal for engineering services from DLZ. If the board recalls, we applied for this, actually, we had part of our maintenance plan, which was part of all this, and we actually applied for the state revolving fund that our project 5800-01 is now fundable for the fiscal '23 year. To the amount of $2,855,000 loan that would qualify for a 10% forgiveness, which is, $285,000. That is significant. And the amount, the projects that we need to have done, the relinings, the manholes, and a variety of other repairs, and one of them in particular, which is several thousand feet of lining for a main.
14,000.
14,000 feet, thank you. Will all be done affordably, and again, having this forgiveness is nothing to look down at. So this needs to be done as part of our maintenance plan, and we have before us the engineering request, which at the time, if my memory serves me correct, I think the engineering amount was, it was $187,000, but now with the scope of the work and the deeper dive into it, it's been reduced to $130,000, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And I would like to see us move forward with this so that we can keep this process going and get some repairs done. Mr. Powell?
I guess I have a question. Are we going to be paying this loan back via increased rates, or do we have enough income annually to be able to make the annual payment for the increase due to the loan payment?
Well, my memory serves me correct, this is a serviceable loan.
Okay.
We do have the income to make the loan payment easily.
Okay.
Part of the loan closing process is a rate study review. So we will be working with most likely the same folks that we worked with on the DWRF project that's under construction now for that.
And all of our other sewer debt got paid off.
That's a good
Yeah,
point.
so
That's
we're-
exactly right.
Yeah, and, you know, parts of our system are aging, and
Yes.
we need to have all that camera work done that we had here a few years ago, revealed some of the manholes were crumbling and need to be lined, and this will remedy those holes, usable for years to come, because that material's pretty much, I don't want to say completely impervious, but people that I've talked about, some of those linings, I ask them how long does it last, and they go, we don't know. A long time. So nothing like plastic. So we're in good shape there. So it needs to be done. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Powell?
Mr. Supervisor, just before I make the motion, Mr. Supervisor, I'm not necessarily always a fan of a lump sum engineering contract. Even though it says that not to exceed 130,000, I believe that is a lump sum contract that they're asking for, is it not? So it will be 130,000.
Well, the proposal is here.
Yes, I believe I read it, that it is a lump sum.
Typically, these are,
Normally, they're hourly not to exceed, but this is a lump sum, and there are pros and cons to that. And it looks like our engineer is there to maybe answer a question.
Yeah, happy to answer that. Mike Lefkin with DLZ. This is presented as a lump sum proposal, so the fee would be 130,000. That's the intent.
So obviously, there are pros and cons. If the project is tough and very hard and it's very time-consuming, then we're still set at 130,000. Hourly, we can take advantage of a more expeditious, a quicker project to where we can save some money. So in this particular one, we will be approving a $130,000 lump sum fee.
Understand.
Okay. That being said, Mr. Supervisor?
Under discussion?
Yes.
How many hours would you estimate then?
I don't have that in front of me. We took a hard look at the numbers, like Supervisor Kowal mentioned. The money that we had in the project plan for design was 187,000. It didn't feel right to me. That was high. So we took a deeper look at it. We did do a breakdown. I just don't have that in front of me. But the effort worked out to 130,000. And I'll point out about 20,000 of that is estimated for soil borings along the route, because we're going to need that to establish the liner thickness as we go. So, you know, if you break that out, the DLZ fee is less, but that's the numbers we worked out to.
Yeah, so this is probably on the project-wise, about 5% of the project?
Certainly very close to that,
Very
yes.
close to that. So I feel, I mean, personally, from my past experience on projects that I've done, I think it's well within the limits of what could be expected to be paid. And I was pleased to see that when they reviewed it a little closer, that it came down. And that effort is greatly appreciated by the township. And obviously, we're always trying to be as careful as we can.
Certainly.
We appreciate the relationship that we have, and you're looking out for
No,
us.
that point's very well taken. We always, we want to be a partner in your success, so.
So I'm frankly comfortable with it, based on that information that I have and the fact that it was re-estimated.
Well, 2.5 miles of sanitary sewer rehabilitation and some 40 structures.
Yeah.
Certainly, I feel much more comfortable with it as well. So if there are no other questions, Mr. Supervisor?
Please do.
I move to approve the DLZ proposal for $130,000 for the 2023 sanitary sewer relining and manhole repair project.
I will support that motion. Motion, support, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Powell.
Thanks, Mike.
Okay, item F, discussion regarding request for proposal, RFP for construction manager services. Mr. Roman.
Okay, so on Monday, November 21st, we began reviewing the RFP, otherwise known as the request for proposal, that will be made available to companies interested in acting as the CMR, otherwise known as the construction manager at risk, for both of the 2 new buildings, a township hall and a new public safety building. When I said we, that includes myself, Township Clerk Noble, Trustee Mike Powell, Planning Director Sean O'Neill, Architect Daniel Redstone, as well as attorneys Lisa Hamame and John Gaber. So we met via Zoom and spent about 2.5 hours discussing concerns, ideas, and possible changes to the draft. We got through approximately 37 pages, and we will meet again via Zoom on Monday, November 28th to hopefully get through the rest of the document. I want the board to keep in mind that this RFP is not simply an outline for a request for proposals to act as a construction manager. Just as important, and maybe more importantly, it serves as the pre-construction contract, the construction contract, and the post-construction contract. Each and every paragraph has to be carefully worded to give White Lake Township both the protection it needs, but also the flexibility that it requires. It's a 60-page document right now, and my guess is it's probably going to get larger. It includes instructions on how to submit proposals. It lays out a general idea of what the projects will entail. It lists out the responsibilities of the CMR during pre-construction, actual construction, and the post-construction time periods. It will have a general timeline included, beginning with issuance of the request for proposal and ending with the completion of the project, most likely sometime in early 2025. This RFP lists out evaluation criteria, submittal requirements. It also details out the specific contract requirements, and it defines the terms and conditions that will be incorporated into the contract. So that said, as you can imagine, there's a lot of detail to review and really tailor to White Lake. If anyone has any questions, fire away.
I would certainly point out, just quickly, that even though Mike calls it a project, and we talked about this at length as well, it is really 2 projects. It's one construction manager that's going to control both our new buildings, and that has its own complications as well.
There is a tremendous amount of information in here. This is not what I call light reading. And there's a lot to absorb. And these are the discussions and conversations that we had talked about having, in the past when we got to this crossroad. And of course, now we are doing it. I'd like to commend all of you for your time and effort that you've put into this. And I know this has been enlightening and arduous, and it's just another course of this that we're on here to get to this final destination. So I certainly appreciate it. I do look forward to having a special board meeting that will be specific to this subject matter, so that as we go through it, and each and every board member has an opportunity or to look at something or look at it again, and if you see something that maybe you didn't see the first time around, to call to the attention to the to the group and move forward with that. So
I also wanted to point out, and I think it's really important that this board understand it, that even though that we have interviewed a number of construction manager companies, both in person and via Zoom, and their qualifications, we did not feel it proper to limit the request for proposals to only those people that we actually interviewed. And therefore, with Lisa's and John Gaber's help, and certainly a lot of help from Sean, we're making it open to any construction manager in the nation that would like to bid this project. We want to make sure that we don't limit the potential of somebody else that comes in and might have better qualifications, better costs to us, and so I wanted the board to know that we aren't limiting this to just some firms that we interviewed.
it's not an invitation only.
Correct.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions or comments from the board at this time?
I had a chance to have a hearty discussion with Mr. O'Neill and get through my questions, so I don't have any tonight. I just want to thank the subcommittee members for working on it so seriously and looking at it with a fine tooth comb. And then I'll be looking forward to what I'll call draft 2 that might come up next week.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay, with that, we will move on, and thank you, everyone, for having this discussion tonight. Okay, next item, which kind of keys in here a little bit, part of the keyway here of things. Why don't you come forward, Dan? We have considered proposal for architectural services of public safety building, Redstone Architecture. Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. Everyone knows Mr. Redstone, who's been working with the township for a number of years now on a variety of things related to public safety, needs assessment, analysis of space, and actually some conceptual drawings for a new public safety building. So Mr. Redstone was asked to kind of lead us through this RFP for CMR process, and has played obviously a very key role in it. And, you know, through this process, the committee felt that it would be appropriate to really get going with obtaining some proposals from Mr. Redstone, or a proposal from Mr. Redstone for his services to move forward and design the request was the public safety and the township hall building. Mr. Redstone had mentioned at that time that, and I guess I'll maybe touch on the next two items because they're sort of interrelated. He mentioned that he was busy to a point where his staff wouldn't be able to take on both projects at the same time. And so at that point, we asked him for his recommendation, and that's when Straub, Pettit, Yaste Architects came up. They do have a history with the township. It's a 20-plus-year-old history. They were the designers of the Dublin Community Center, the police addition, and the police garage project. So those are the three they worked on 20-plus years ago. And Stu Pettit, who was one of the owners then, is still involved now. And he and Dan have had decades of working relationship together. And I think it's pretty common that the two of them work together when their smaller staffs can't handle a huge project like this because of the other things that they have going on. So the two proposals for you tonight, and unfortunately, Mr. Pettit couldn't make it. He had previously planned many months ago to be out of town this week for the holidays, so visiting family. So he apologizes for not being able to be here, but we still wanted to advance both of these proposals for your consideration tonight. A couple things I want to mention about them. If a proposal is approved tonight, we'll begin, the committee and the attorneys involved with the committee will begin working with both Mr. Redstone and Mr. Pettit to put together a contract, a formal contract, which is not before you tonight. It's just simply a proposal, so that way they kind of have an indication that you intend to move ahead with them. And then we'll spend the time with both of these gentlemen working out the B-133 agreements, which in draft form are attached to the requests in front of you tonight. So that is going to take us weeks of time, and that will eventually be, because it's a contract, come back before the full board for your consideration. So this won't be the last time we talk about it. We'll go away and work for a couple weeks and then bring it back at a subsequent meeting. But we wanted to at least keep the ball rolling, and we think it's important to have both of these professionals on board before we get going with the CMR. And we're a couple months away from the CMR. Obviously, we haven't even approved, the board hasn't even approved the RFP yet. So I want to get these gentlemen in place with their firms so that way we can kind of begin the design process in earnest once the timing is right. The other thing I wanted to mention is we do believe that obviously we have a continuing and ongoing relationship with Mr. Redstone, and have previously had a professional relationship with Stu Pettit, so we felt comfortable moving ahead without, consistent with the procurement policy, without having to bid these out. But we did at the committee level decide to make some phone calls to some of our neighboring communities to compare what some of their projects that are very similar cost from a design perspective. And we found that the 6% that's being proposed, which includes architectural and engineering services, which you can see is right on par with what Highland Township's paying for their municipal buildings. It's slightly less than what Commerce has paid for their new fire station. And the library's contract was 6.3% for those same services, so slightly less than what the library paid. So it's all, we feel at the committee level, very reasonable and on par with with other like projects. There aren't many communities that are looking at building a new township hall or city hall and, public safety or police or fire building at the same time. So I don't know that we'll be able to find something exactly similar, but we thought they were very close and equal comparisons from a percentage standpoint. So there's 3 committee members here tonight. If they have anything to add or anything that maybe I've missed that they want to mention, please feel free to jump in. But we've had a great working relationship with Mr. Redstone, and I certainly feel comfortable, I think as does the committee, with moving ahead with these 2 firms and, taking these next steps.
Mr. Powell?
Yes, a couple things that I wanted to bring up to the board. First of all, I want to make sure that the board recognizes that the committee really looks forward to summarizing and keeping the rest of the board informed as to what's happening. You folks probably don't want to do and put in all the time and read these documents like this, and so, but we want to summarize them for the rest of you board members. If we were to go and put out an RFP for architectural companies, we would be 6 to 9 months down the line so the timing would be greatly changed. We'd lose a year in the design process. And the reason I state that is it's so critical that 3 entities are going to be working on this simultaneously and in concert with each other, and that's the township via the committee and the board, as we make the rest of the board familiar with things, the architect and the construction manager. Those 3 entities are going to be meeting for many, many hours, modifying things with the intent to get the very best product we can for the people of the township and at the lowest cost possible. So the architect will be designing, the construction manager will be advising the architect that what the architect has done is either proper or more expensive, and it can be done for cheaper or a different way. And the township then will be approving what our experts and what our contractors, or not our contractors, but our consultants advise us and present. So this 3-part design is so critical that each one respects each other. And that's why we're presenting it to you like this tonight, because we really have to start somewhere. We have the township best interest at heart. We really believe that the architect would be the next appropriate entity to bring into the township for consultant, because their input and their working with the construction manager is going to be important. So we want the architect's input on evaluating the construction manager's proposals as well. Very, very complicated, and we're here to answer any questions the rest of you board members might have. We look forward to continuing with the process, but we wanted to let everyone know that if we didn't choose these contractors, or I'm sorry, the architects, we would be a year further out in our end product.
Yeah, that's quite true. One of the things that I have to say I was very pleased with when we did our conceptualization of this, the information that you were given, which was sort of vague in one respect, other than I stood there in a piece of property with the chiefs and said, here's where it's going. You pretty well brought it home after you met with them and kind of worked it in. So there was automatically a comfort level that you could reach the type of end product that would be a serviceable building for our public safety for the future to come. And your relationship with other individuals and other architectural firms are very important. And the simple fact we've already had a relationship, and this township's always valued doing business with people that we have a history with, because we have always felt that the ones that we continue to work with have always looked out for our best interest and our tomorrow. And this may be the first project, hopefully, that this board will move forward with you on, but it won't be the last. And incidentally, he also is working on a conceptual drawing for the station number 3 so that we can apply for an infrastructure grant, of which we are going to need to have some concept drawings for this grant, much like the grant that we received from DC, the 1.6 million we received. Having that conceptual drawing as part of that submittal is what brought us to that award. So we are working on that. I believe those things that will pick up steam after the first of the year. And there's going to be probably a series of grants that are going to be applied for infrastructure and including some of the public safety needs and such throughout. So I want to make sure the township is in an optimum position to take advantage of those grants. So any other questions from Mr. Noble, do you have anything to say, being on the board?
Just that it's been a pleasure working with Development Director, Community Development Director Sean O'Neill, Trustee Powell, and Treasurer Rumman. We spent quite a bit, about 3 hours and 20 minutes, I think. Mr. Redstone was a little wore out along with the rest of us, and we're still not through it. So we're going to diligently, along with our attorneys, push it forward, but we're right on track and really pleased with the progress.
Very good. Any comment, Mr. Broman?
Just so the board knows, I spoke with our municipal financial advisor this afternoon, Bobby Benzinski, just to give him an update as to where we stood with everything. He wanted to know which architects we planned on using, and I mentioned Daniel Redstone's name, and he was thrilled. So Bobby said we made the right choice. So just wanted you all to know that.
Thank you.
Yes, Trustee Smith.
I just wanted to say that, I just want to remind my board members that we actually started with Mr. Redstone back in 2017. So he's certainly not new to this board and this idea here. And he had a great concept then and has continued to. I have a personal relationship with some board members that you worked with in a different township, and you built their township complex, and they had nothing but good to say, and that it was a wonderful experience. And I think everybody on this board sitting here tonight has had a chance to meet with Mr. Redstone, and we all feel very comfortable. So I'm a yes on this. This is no brainer.
Thank you.
Yeah.
You don't have to say anything. Okay.
Sometimes it pays to keep my mouth shut. I appreciate the comments. I appreciate the ability to be part of the White Lake Township team to see this dream that you've had for many years to fruition. And I think we're on the right track. I think the team together, the architects with the same consultants, sub-consultants, the construction manager at risk, and I've worked with 3 of the people you've invited. I may pass on making a recommendation. I'll help with the interviews, but I don't believe it's my role to vote. So it's a great process. It's a great team effort. It requires the committee to continue to be involved in the decision-making process as we go through the design all the way through the bidding phase, and construction.
Thank you very much. Any question or comments from the board further? Seeing none, I would like to entertain a motion that we retain Daniel Redstone Architecture for the design services consultation for the for the public safety building and the township hall.
Subject.
Subject to the negotiation of a
Subject to negotiation.
B-133 agreement.
And was that worded quite right? Because Mr. Redstone is going to be dealing with the public safety building, and then the other architect will be the prime on the township hall.
Correct. He'll be
And
the prime
you
on the
said
township hall.
just him for both the buildings.
No, not, I misspoke. What, I know he'll be there for both buildings.
Yes.
As sort of an overseer.
Correct.
But do the design services specifically to the public safety building.
Can I ask council a question? Should we have 2 separate motions, one for each?
Oh, we
Yes.
will, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is just to get him out the chute,
Yes.
so. That's in the form of a motion. You got that? Somehow, some way? Okay.
I'll support it.
We have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Redstone.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Next one is, yes, absolutely. H, consider a proposal for architect services, Township Hall Building, Stroud, Pettit, Yaste Architects. Unfortunately, he is not here tonight, but the recommendation has been extremely strong to go in this direction. And I, through my 35, 40 years of construction experience, when one architect recommends another, either likes them or hates them, one or the other. So, so I didn't get that feeling. So I feel that we will inevitably have a stronger team, I think. Yes.
What I didn't say, but what we've discussed, is that throughout this design process, both we and Straw Pettit Yates will be working together with the construction manager at risk to identify, as you said, cost-effective systems and solutions, not only for the construction bidding, but also for long-range maintenance and so on, so that the township will have a consistent set of HVAC systems and so on, so they can maintain them better. And so Stu and I have agreed that we're going to continue to work as a team and make sure that both buildings are thought of as similar concepts, similar products, similar systems, to the extent we can do that.
Thank you. Okay.
Team effort's really
good.
important. Yeah.
So any questions or comments on Pettit and Yost? All right, seeing none, I would like to make a motion for consideration for the proposal for architect service for the Township Hall Building for Stroud Pettit Yaste Architects, subject to, what was that, Sean?
B-133 agreement being negotiated.
B-133 negotiation. I'll make that in the form of a motion. Looking for support?
Support.
I have motion, I have support. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None.
Daniel, thanks for coming out.
Yes,
today.
Thank you so much.
Looking forward.
It's exciting.
Thank you.
Aye. Consider a proposal for master plan update. Mr. O'Neill.
I don't normally read to you, but I'm going to. The township's land use master plan is currently in need of updating. The master plan was, the last master plan update was completed in 2011, though the plan has been periodically reviewed by the Planning Commission as is required by the Michigan Planning Enabling Act 33 of 2008. In August of this year, the department issued a request for proposal for assistance with an update to the master plan. We directly invited 7 firms to participate. We gave a deadline of September 27th, and only 2 firms replied. On October 20th, the Planning Commission interviewed both Beckett and Rader and Housel Levine, which were the 2 firms that were that had responded. And the Planning Commission, while they found both to be highly qualified, they unanimously recommended the Township Board approve Beckett and Rader's proposal, which is in your packet for your review, in an amount not to exceed $41,580. The proposal from Housel Levine totaled $50,000. This amount would be paid out of the professional fee line item in the Community Development Department, split partially between this year, as if approved tonight, we intend to kick this process off on December 1st at the Planning Commission, with the balance of about 90% of it being paid out of next year's budget. I've got the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting for your review. You had both proposals, both work plans, and again, both were highly qualified. It came down to the fact that I think the township's relationship with Beckett and Rader, they've done a lot of work in the Parks and Recreation area. They're very highly qualified planning and engineering firm as well. And so they have that reputation. That said, Housel Levine is doing a master plan update, a robust update for Waterford right next door. So we'll likely be working with them at certain points as our consultant communicates with some of the neighboring communities on kind of what's going on with their master plans. So I certainly support the Planning Commission's recommendation. And again, while both firms were adequately qualified, we do certainly have a lot of faith in Beckett and Rader. And they had a significantly lower price as well. So just kind of anecdotally, when this was last approved for an update in 2010, half of the program was done in 2010, the other half in 2011, so it was split between 2 budget years. That was $35,000. So by a percentage, it really hasn't, the price for these services hasn't really gone up as much as you might expect it to. So I was pleased with getting a price that started with a 4 instead of a 5, and so I'm certainly comfortable with moving ahead as recommended by the Planning Commission if you see fit. And if you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions from the board at this time? Mr. O'Neill, there is a certain comfort level, again, going back to those relationships. Beckett Raiders helped us with a variety of different things. They're working with us on the park and things of that nature. I feel comfortable with them. I know that we in the past have, tried to be very, very careful, but every now and then you get into something, there's a lot of dynamics. If you read through this, the areas that have to be updated, there are statistical information, there's things related to population,
Right.
trends, land use, potential land use, where are we going to be in 20 years from now, 30 years from now, projections. One case in point, and I'll just bring it up briefly, is we don't have a whole lot of light industrial here in White Lake Township. So to seek out an area here that would allow that to happen, to create job opportunity and commerce here would be a good thing. So.
Yeah. One thing, I agree with you. And one thing that really stood out with this proposal to the Planning Commission or to several planning commissioners was the redevelopment workshop that they're proposing. Every community from time to time has that vacant store, that vacant building that just becomes an eyesore, and it sits there and you wish something would happen to it, and you wish, you had a plan rather than, just saying, well, we'll wait and see what happens. And so one of their focuses is going to be on having a redevelopment workshop and including in an economic development plan or chapter of this, some strategies for avoiding having dark stores. That's not a problem that White Lake's had, certainly compared to some of other communities in Michigan, but it's not something that we're completely immune to either. So rather than reacting at a later date, they're going to talk about some ideas and strategies right now. So if in 10 years we have a downturn and, stores go out of business or things need to be different projects or properties need to be redeveloped, we've kind of had some strategies on the books or in place that we're thinking about. And as you all know, many of the changes to the master plan, this is our goal for the next number of years, they're going to necessitate potentially changes and amendments to the zoning ordinance that will kind of be that vehicle to get us to where we want to be down the road. So I'm really curious to see how that plays out through this process. One more thing I wanted to mention was the original proposal had a 14-month timeline proposed, and I've asked them to get this done in 11 months. And so if it kicks off on December 1st, it would wrap up by next November 1st, and they've agreed to do that. So we'll be able to trim the process down by 3 months and have this wrapped up by this time, hopefully before this time next year.
And again, to the public, many of these studies and processes that are done or need to be done are often required by the state over different time frames. And also, when we go to do grants, there's always these little boxes. Do you have a master plan for your parks? Do you have a master plan for your township? When was it last updated? And these they carry a lot of weight, and sometimes they can be determining factors in whether or not we will even be considered for the grant. So being prepared is probably the best possible thing that we could do. Any other questions or comments from the board at this time?
Yeah.
Mr. Roman.
I just wanted the rest of the board to know that I approached Sean and just asked him if he thought it would be at all possible to complete this project with our in-house staff. I got a quick no this time, so, but at least I asked.
Well, I just spoke to Mr. O'Neill about that too, and, White Lake is just booming right now, and this is a huge undertaking, not that they're fully competent to do it, but there's so much else going on that I think it's smart to delegate it out at this time.
That is exactly the point, Trustee Smith, and I made that comment very clear, and it was just that we have so much going on, and we are now embarking on another adventure. So we are going to be very, very busy in-house, and I think you need to know when the the camel's back, so to speak, is starting to get a little bit low to the sand. So we have to kind of make sure that we move forward, and I think this is an appropriate measure, so.
I also suggest that we used to have our consultants do the continual review as well. We used to pay them. Our in-house staff has done all the updates in the last 10 years. And therefore, they've saved this township a great deal of money, not having to go out to the consultants, but every 10 years or so, we need to have an entire overhaul. And so this is the appropriate time, and Beckett Rader is the appropriate company.
There's a lot of heavy lifting.
Yeah, there's,
And again, to Mr. Roman, Mr. O'Neill has been really, if you want to speak to him off, privately and meet with him, he's made some other cuts in the department to balance out costs where he is doing some other things in-house, so that's helpful.
yeah, after speaking today with Director O'Neill, staff planner Quaglad has taken on a great deal of in-house work.
That's what I'm referring to.
Yes, correct. And
We got a
then
great team
we've-
there.
Yeah, great team.
We do.
And he's really stepped up to the plate when asked. So we appreciate that, saving us money on that end.
Yeah, if we ask him to do this, he may have to just move in. I hope he's got a good sleeping bag.
He did volunteer to do that night
He
and
did.
weekends.
I think he would, yeah, he'd probably work 7 days a week if I asked him to, but yeah, there's only so much bandwidth, and frankly, as it was said, it's a heavy lift, and there's no way, I mean, I appreciate your support, and I think we could get through it. It would take us 2 years, not 11 months, just with everything else going on and all the competing interests. So, and we will still be working to, as we always do, support Beck and Rader. Most of these proposals anticipate having, same with Aaron, same with every department, a certain amount of cooperation and time spent by the staff to provide information, provide editing, provide other support, for the consultant that's assisting in either a design or a document writing process. So, yeah, we're looking forward to getting this done.
Okay. That being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the master plan update for an amount with Beckett Rader not to exceed $41,580 per subject of Mr. O'Neill's oversight.
I'll second
Support.
that, support it.
I got support I made the motion, support
it to Anthony.
from Mr. Noble. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution to establish meeting dates of the Charter Township of White Lake. Well, we don't have deer season in here this year.
We've already passed it, sir.
No, I mean the next year.
Oh.
The way it works.
Yeah, see, I personally am just glad they're all the third Thursday, or third Tuesday, excuse me.
I went back there and checked too.
Yeah, I always do, because we shouldn't change it. First reason we changed it for this week, or for this month, the person's not here. So I'll make a motion, I'm asking to approve resolution number 22037.
We have a motion to approve Resolution 22037, the scheduling of the township meetings for Charter Township White Lake in 2023, from Andrew Voorhees. Looking for support?
Support for discussion, if I could. In evaluating this, I just wanted to point out to the board that the November 21st is only 4 days from Thanksgiving, and December 19th is only 6 days from Christmas. And so we could move both of those dates 1 week sooner to get it further away from the holidays, and I just throw that out there, but
Nope, we're 2 days before Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah, I don't mind either way. The only thing that it might help is when we have people on the agenda that come to us and then they have travel plans. That's only, that, it does affect it. Like we had a, gentleman previously on the agenda tonight that has travel plans because it's Thanksgiving. So.
I have another I do have a special board meeting, honestly.
I don't mind getting it away from the holidays either way.
Yep.
It's okay with me, but.
My own preference is to just leave them on the third Tuesdays.
Well, we show up. This is proposed as by Andrea, supported by Mr. Powell.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Adopted. Mr. Roman.
So, we received, little over $3 million, $3,288,555.67 to be exact, from the American Rescue Plan Act, otherwise known as ARPA. We've received that in 2022. The money's sitting in our general fund, and with everything on our plate with these new buildings, I'm asking the board to move that money, as well as all the interest earned on it, into the improvement revolving fund, which is money we'll be using towards our new buildings. I'll put that in the form of a motion.
I have it in the form of a motion from Mr. Roman, looking for support.
I'll support it.
I have motion and support. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries.
And I want to thank Mr. Roman, Treasurer Roman, for being so diligent and also for the interest earned on these funds.
Absolutely.
Justin's doing that one, right? Justin's going after that one.
Yeah. Next item, Resolution 22040, approving submission of Stanley Park Spark Grant application. This is a grant that will allow us 3 windows of opportunity. You know how I like to go after grants. So this one, when I found it had 3 windows, I was extremely happy. And Mr. O'Neill?
Thank you. You have before you a memo from Justin dated November 15th regarding the Michigan Spark Grant. There's $65 million in this program of ARPA funds, and the DNR is administering this grant. Grants can be anywhere from $100,000 to $1 million. $100,000 per grant to $1 million per grant. Round 1 applications, as the supervisor mentioned, there are 3 rounds, but round 1 is, those applications are due December 19th. And believe it or not, we will know in January whether or not we were successful. Well, what's kind of exciting is we've got clearly identified projects in a plan that's already in front of them. The reason we can ask for funding to rehabilitate the building that has no roof on it in Stanley Park right now, while we've already gotten an award, is because that's not included. It's in our plan, but it's not included in that first phase of the funding. So we are seeking to do quite a bit, but not rehabilitate this building. So this would just take one item off the list for a future phase or future application of a trust fund grant. So the recommendation is to ask for $300,000. We called and checked with the DNR today to confirm. It's an all or nothing, so it's not like they're going to say, we've asked for 300, we're only going to give you 2. It's, if you want 300, we're going to give it to you, or we won't. If we're denied, it does not preclude us from asking for a grant at a later date. There's $15 million in this first round, but the next 2 rounds will offer roughly $25 million each in the $65 million program, as I understand it. So really, there's no downside to this. We will be able to meet the deadline of December 19th. Beckett and Rader is actually giving us a little bit of assistance to make sure we can get what we need to them when they need it. And, again, Stanley Park is well-known by the state. They gave us a grant to buy it. They gave us a grant to do development of it. So I'm not saying that this is a foregone conclusion, but certainly they have looked favorably upon this project. And so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get this grant to rehabilitate that building, which will play a key role in the future of that park. So tonight before you is a resolution that is required by the state for this program, and we would respectfully request your approval.
Any questions or comments from the board?
I'd just like to make a comment. This is a lot of grant writing over the last few years. Again, Director O'Neill and his staff, Justin, they've done an excellent job pursuing the money out there that's available out there. And what are we, I don't think we've struck out yet, have we?
Yeah, knock on plastic. Yeah.
Knock on plastic.
But other than that, it's great. I'd like to make a motion for Resolution 22-040, approving the submission of the Stanley Park grant application.
I have motion, looking for support.
Support.
I have motion, I have support by Andrew Voorhees. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, everyone. We are constantly watching. I get things that come across my screen, I shoot them over to Sean and Justin and say, how about this one? How about that one? Some are like, nah. And some of them are like, yeah, maybe we can look into this. So we go back and forth and back and forth. And I think it's in our best interest, obviously, to pursue these as well as others that we have on our radar currently, which we are preparing for, to keep propelling us forward for better facilities and services for our community. It is that time of night. It is trustee comments. And I'm going to start with Mr. Powell,
Oh, my.
the traveler.
All right. Mr. Supervisor and fellow residents and those in attendance, I want to thank those that are in attendance tonight, especially the earlies. Thank you very much. One of these days, we'll expect you to actually make a major presentation to us, keep us straight. But I wanted to thank each of our residents that went out and voted at the last election. I am personally disappointed in the outcome of the Michigan vote, and certainly disappointed in a number of the areas of the country as well. However, that being said, we still have a great deal to be thankful for. And we are residents in an incredible community. We have a great deal to be thankful for in this community, as well as the future of White Lake Township. So I wish all my fellow residents a very happy Thanksgiving and careful spending for Christmas. So thank you, Mr. Supervisor.
Thank you, Mr. Powell. Mr. Roman.
Well, first, I'd like to congratulate and compliment our township clerk on a fine job done on the elections.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well done, Anthony. Thank you. Second, for those interested, the Goodfellows delivery this year will take place on Saturday, December 17th. And for those that want to help deliver packages, we will meet across the street at the community hall at 8 a.m. And with that, I would also like to thank our residents and our board for being here today, and a happy Thanksgiving to everybody.
Very good. Andrew Voorhees.
Thank you. Just remind everyone, including our residents, that December 2nd is our annual tree lighting from 6 to 8 at the Kelly Fisk Farm Fall Festival. Sorry, I knew I was going to say festival because that's what I'm used to. It's like I said, from 6 to 8, would love to see everyone there. It was great to see our Citizens Academy graduates last week at that activity. It's full force. The residents that were there loved it, and I'm glad to see it's going again. And just quickly have a safe and happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. So I'll start with a quick library update. The Friends of the Library have a book sale coming up December 8th through December 10th. And they will be doing crafts at the tree lighting event this year, so I'm glad to see them back and at that event. And as Andrea mentioned, it's December 2nd from 6 to 8. It is perpetually cold that weekend, so dress warm. It's an outdoor event, so keep that in mind. I want to thank our VFW Post 4156 for hosting us at their Veterans Day ceremony, and thank you to all our veterans in our community for their service, and may God bless them and their families. We're forever in their debt. For years now, I've enjoyed supporting Post 4156 and enjoyed their friendship, and I attended their Thanksgiving dinner last Saturday. They had a fantastic turnout, so I want to thank our community for coming out and supporting them. It was one of their larger turnouts for the last couple of years. I want to congratulate, as Andrea said, our new White Lake Township Citizens Academy class. My husband and I are alumni. If you haven't taken that class yet, I encourage you to do so. I believe the spring class is already filled up, but get yourself on a waiting list. It's a fantastic opportunity to learn more about what we do here at the township, and I too enjoyed celebrating their graduation with them. Thank you, everyone, for voting. I want to thank our clerk's department and our election workers. We can't do it without them, and congratulate those that put their name on the ballot. As we are in the season of, in the week of Thanksgiving, I want to take this opportunity to say how thankful I am to our residents who trust me to sit here every month and represent them. I'm truly grateful for you. I want to thank our residents and our great staff, our police, our fire department, and of course, my fellow board members. It's a pleasure to work with you, and I'm thankful for each and every one of you. And I want to wish everybody a safe and happy Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next month. We got a lot going on. So,
Thank you, Trustee Smith. Mr. Noble.
I'd like to thank my staff, Deputy Santiago, Jillian, our senior election specialist, Cole, and Rita, who came in, and she works part-time elections. This task of the election could not have been done without a great team, and I have the best team. And all the election workers, such as Brian. Brian stepped up to the plate when we had a problem and went out, as you heard earlier tonight. So I'd like to thank Graceland, Dickies, Mobile Subway, Jets, Jimmy John's, and Tiki Bar. A couple businesses were out of the area, but we had relationships with them, didn't we, Brian? And we're able to, bring the community together to do that, and we didn't have to use taxpayer funds to feed the over close to 100-plus workers. And some of the staff got to enjoy some food throughout the day. I'd like to thank Treasurer Roman, staff who came in and helped out at the receiving board. Tremendous ladies that helped out at the late hour night. That was about a 17-hour day for me. We're back up the next day, taking things down, and it went great. I'd also like to bring to the board's attention that the accounting department, Elaine and Don did a fabulous job. We were contacted by the state for unemployment insurance agency tax, which they dove into, hadn't had anything like that happen before, and the audit went fabulous, zero. I just want to commend, I have an excellent staff in there. Don and Elaine do a tremendous job. Sometimes I see papers and they know right where everything's at. So that just came up today. It was brought to my attention a couple weeks ago, but got the great results today. So, and all the staff at White Lake Township, we have a tremendous team here. And I want to wish everybody happy and safe Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Well, the American machine still works. The electoral process, agree with it, not agree with it, it still works in this country and still the best place, I think, to be. I would like to thank you, Mr. Noble, and your staff. They did a great job. Also like to thank you for stepping up at the Veterans Memorial, the Veteran Day speech that you did and everything, because I had the opportunity to see my firstborn grandson. And my wife said, we're going. Veterans are going to have to understand. And of course they did. So it's good news. It's a great feeling. It's kind of cool. New experience, definitely something to take in. So for that, I'm eternally grateful. And for the opportunity to serve everyone in this community and be a part of this team, I am also very thankful. Also, Deputy Santiago, he catches the little things. He sends me, he's my little bug in my ear, and he catches the little things, and we try to make sure those are right.
Him and Trustee Powell.
That's right. Yes. And it is good to have a team that is, I firmly believe, looking out for the overall benefit, well-being, and welfare of the residents of White Lake Township. So with that, I say good night, God bless, happy Thanksgiving, and I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion and support, all in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned.